Assalamu alaikum. We continue on the third video to talk about the remaining parts of verse number 34, surah number 4, An-Nisa, verse number 34. I stopped at that men are morally responsible to maintain the female of the house, of the family, and the society in general. And I also talked about the reasons why the burden falls on the man. You could refer back to the video number 2. And this verse, as I said, it lays down the foundation of how to maintain, protect the family, which is the most important unit of a society, as we all know. These are the foundations laid down. The other foundation, the following foundation, is to lay down the ideal characteristic of a good female. Why is the emphasis on the female now? Because the female represents the foundation of a family. And the female is the first teacher of man. Man or a male is born to a female, not vice versa. Therefore, she is the first teacher of any human being. So, the Quran lays down the foundation of a good, honorable, chaste woman, whether it's a sister or a daughter or a wife in a family. And the foundation are as follows. Immediately after that the Quran established, or the verse established, the basic rule, who's responsible of who, in terms of protection, honoring, serving, providing, what have you. These are the first rule. And the second rule is what is the woman, the characteristic of a female or a chaste female. Immediately the verse followed by فَالصَّالِحَاتُ begins by the letter Fa. The letter Fa in Arabic, it basically conveys the meaning of continuous, to continue afterward, and should be connected to the previous text. There's a connection here. So meaning, and on the same token, you have to remember this. فَالصَّالِحَاتُ. It's trying to explain the good, chaste woman. As-salihatu means good or chaste in this context. As-salihatu in a female format. So referring to who? To the An-Nisa in the previous few words in the same verse. When it says Ar-Rijalu Qawamuna ala Nisa, An-Nisa here, or the woman in the plural, is talking about the good woman, the chaste woman. What are the characteristics of the good woman in a family? The Quran answers. It says, and by virtue of their so that's immediately explaining to us. So righteous women are obedient, caretaking in the absence of the husbands of what Allah has enjoined them to guard. Now, obedient, that is translation of the word qunut, because the verse says in Arabic, فَالصَّالِحَاتُ what? What is the good woman? What is the chaste woman? What is the first characteristic of a chaste woman? The Quran says qanitat. Qanitat. Qanitat, it comes from qunut. Qunut, from a linguistic standpoint, it means to listen, to adhere, to what? To listen to her husband, to adhere to her husband? Not at all. That's not what qunut means. Now, I examined the entire Quran to establish what is qunut in here. Is God telling us that the woman should be obedient to man and as a master and slave? Absolutely not. This is a very serious and very important notion here. There are two characteristics of a chaste woman. Number one is qanitat or qanita in the singular, qanitat in the plural, meaning woman. Number two is the guardian, or those who guard the affairs of the house in the absence of the man of the house, whether a husband or a brother or so on. And then those two characteristics is qunut or qanita or qanitat in the plural, a woman to be qanita. It's got nothing to do with the husband here. There is a moral dimension to it, because in the entire context of the Quran, in the entire Quran, where every time there is the derivative of the word qanata, qunut, qanitat, it's really to do with the moral relationship of man or a human being with his creator. Not a master and slave, not a husband or a wife, not a father or a son or a daughter, not at all. Qunut is absolutely to do with an obedience to the creator. So unfortunately, most or all of the classical commentators, they render this the characteristic of a female, qanita or qanitat, is to do with obedience to man, or to the husband, or to the older brother. This is absolutely unacceptable, because this is not a Quranic way. This is maybe influenced by the culture of the Arabs at that time. But from a contextual Quranic standpoint, it's clear to me, based on these investigations, that the first trait of a chaste female is to be honorable in her morality towards God, meaning to adhere to what God is expecting of her in terms of morality, a good conduct, honoring the family, protecting her children, focusing on the family. Nothing else outside the family. It should be coming first. The first priorities of the family, the children, brothers and sisters, the husband. That's a priority number one. Because by doing so, that means she's adhering to God's teachings, commandments of what He expects of her to be. So, qanitat. So let's take some verses of the Quran where employs the word qanitat or qanata yaqnutu qunut. And it's interesting enough, we know in the prayer we use qunut, we raise our hands. That's to do of a dua towards God, nothing to do with obedience to the husband or the male. Now, so now the qunut, I'm just trying to figure out to find a verse which talks about qunut very quickly. Sorry, just bear with me because my computer is playing tricks on me. Yeah, so qanitat, we say that we have the In verse 116, actually in Al-Baqarah 116, for example, if you go to Al-Baqarah number 116, if you have a Quran, you could follow up with that. It's where it says, and they say, Allah has taken a son, immaculate is he. Rather to him belongs whatever is in the heaven and the earth. All are obedient to him. Now, obedient to him, the word used qanitun. Qanitun, here qunut. So qunut, this I'm just going to give one verse, and you could look up in the Quran, you could do search in the root word qanata, qunut, qanitat, and so on. You'll find, excuse me, you'll find that meaning. It's obedience to the Creator. Nothing to do with obedience to man or to husband and wife. Actually, it's a shirk when you say obedience to man, because the Quran never employed the word qunut or qanitat or qanata in respect to man. It's only between him, the Creator, and his creation. Because the Quran could have used other words. Arabic is very vast. They could have used other words where it says ati'u. Ati'u means obedience, to obey, which could be used in respect to God and human, God and the creation, and also between humans. We use the word ati'u. It could have said ta'i'at, but it didn't say that. It says qanitat. It's very clear, very precise, the Quran, about employing the terms. So now we establish that qanitat is obedience to God. So the first characteristic of a chaste woman is to be obedience to God's teachings, commandments, and what He expects of her to be good. And the list very long, how to be good. The second trait is, the verse tells us, is to guard in the absence. What God expects to guard. What God expects to protect. For example, the translation here, I think, is translation would be, and for those who was misconduct, so righteous women are obedience, as I said. Unfortunately, it's taken to be obedience to man, to her husband, which is not. Caretaking in the absence of their husbands, of what Allah has enjoined them to guard. It's a very interesting wording in the text. Hafizatul ghayb. Hafizatu al-ghayb. Those who guard in the absence. Those who guard in the unseen, something behind the scene. Like if there's nobody around, she knows that she has to guard that. No matter there's somebody or not somebody. Why? Because God is the one is watching, is saying. So if the husband is not there, Allah expects of the female to guard that which God expects of her to guard. And what is that thing? And this chastity. The chastity of a female. So important to the core of maintaining a family. And that's very clear to every society. A chaste woman in the family is so important to continue and maintain the family progress and the stability. So the second trait, as I said, the first says, is to guard in the ghayb. Hafizatul ghayb. Bima hafiz Allah. What Allah has expect of her to protect. And that is the chastity. I will continue, inshallah, next video, the remaining text of the verse, so we'll get to the real stuff, inshallah. Until then, salam alaikum.